Hi, I'm Dieter Bradbury, editor at the Portland Press Herald. With me is Andy Smith, director of the University of New Hampshire Survey Center. Welcome, Andy.
Thanks for having me.
We're here to talk about the Portland Press Herald poll. And Andy, let's get right to it. We talked with respondents about their feelings in the presidential race. What are we seeing since the last poll a month ago?
Well, we're seeing that Hillary Clinton is pulling away a little bit in the presidential race. Currently, she's leading Trump by 48% to 37%. 5% prefer Gary Johnson, 3% Jill Stein. Only 3% now are undecided. I should say that we also ask a question if you've definitely decided who you're going to vote for. 71% of voters say they are definitely decided that they definitely decided on the candidate they're going to support.
Where are her pockets of strength in Maine?
There's two major areas. Well, first there's the geographic strength. She's doing much better in the 1st Congressional District than the 2nd CD, and so southeastern Maine is her real area of strength. But there's a couple demographic groups that she's doing particularly well among. Clinton is leading among women by a 57 to 29% margin, whereas Trump has a somewhat of a lead among men, but it's only 46 to 39. So the gender gap is real, and that's favoring Clinton. Secondly, on education, there's definitely it's almost a cultural divide between the two parties in the support for the candidates here. Among people with only a high school degree, Trump leads by 58 to 26% there. But among people with a college degree, it's flipped around, 48% for Clinton, 34% for Trump. And if you go to people who have some sort of advanced college, it goes to 79% for Clinton, 14% for Trump. This morning I drove across rural Maine and I didn't see a single Clinton sign. Saw a lot of Trump signs. And I think that's indicative of a lot of the cultural division that you see within the state of Maine.
Now, both of these candidates have been tremendously unpopular with voters for different reasons.
Right.
Does that unpopularity, is there anything changing about that?
Yeah, these are the two least popular candidates in U.S. presidential history. And typically, if you are the less popular candidate, you want to drive the unfavorables of your opponent down. Well, what we've seen is that Clinton is actually improving slightly. Now 41% have a favorable opinion of Clinton, but 50% have an unfavorable opinion of her. That's better than it was a month ago. Trump, on the other hand, is still as unpopular as he was a month ago, 62% unfavorable, 31% favorable. And it's lining up about the same way as the support for the candidates are. Democrats have a much more favorable opinion of Clinton. Republicans are mixed on their support for Trump. That, I think, is the greatest problem that Trump has, is that he hasn't unified the Republican Party completely behind him, whereas Democrats are much more unified behind Clinton.
Now, he's made a significant investment in Maine. He's been up here, it will be 5 times.
Right.
Is that paying off for him?
Well, I think it is, in the sense that Maine is one of 2 states that awards some of its electoral votes based on congressional district. Now, the 1st Congressional District, Trump is doing poorly, and I don't think he's coming to visit up here in the 1st Congressional District. But that 2nd CD is up for grabs. And we're seeing that in the 2nd CD, it's essentially a dead heat there. And that one electoral vote is something that's worth fighting for. And it's never happened before that Maine has split its electoral votes, but this might be the time. He has lost ground significantly in the 2nd CD from a month ago, but that's mainly because Democrats, I think, are deciding that they're going to vote, and they're voting for Clinton.
Mm-hmm. Talking about the congressional districts, we have a race in each district,
Right.
Members of Congress seeking re-election. How are they faring in the context of the presidential campaign?
A big problem for everybody down ticket in a presidential year is they don't have control over turnout. The presidential campaigns are going to determine who shows up and who doesn't show up. And in the 1st Congressional District, it's no surprise that Shelley Pingree has a significant lead. It doesn't look like that she is going to really face much competition. Currently, she's leading Holbrook by 61% to 28%, and that really hasn't changed much. But I don't think anybody anticipated that that would be a particularly close race. If you go over to the 2nd CD, though, this is a rematch of the 2014 race, and here we got Bruce Poliquin currently at 43% for Kane, 42% for Poliquin. It's a dead heat there. And a month ago, Poliquin had a little bit of a lead, about a 10-point lead, but that's down to has evaporated now. But I think that's largely tied with the presidential race. The improvement that Kane has seen is very similar to the improvement that Clinton has seen in that district.
We're 12 days out roughly at this point from the election. How much movement are we likely to see in these kinds of numbers?
Well, typically you don't see much movement at all in the last week or so of a campaign, especially at a presidential campaign where there's a tremendous amount of money and more attention paid on it than in a midterm election. That said, with the unpopularity of both Clinton and Trump, I think it's possible to see more variability in the electorate, that you could possibly see more movement because a significant percentage of the voters are voting against a candidate rather than voting for a candidate. And if they vote against one candidate, they're somewhat less likely to vote for members of the party going down ticket. But I think the biggest thing that we have to see, and it's too early to see yet, is turnout. Which party is able to get their people to the polls? That, I think, is going to be the determining factor. And if Trump seems to be picking up in some of the other states, that may give more incentive to Republicans who don't like him much here, but really don't like Clinton, to come out and vote for him. So I think there's an opportunity for Trump still. It's slim, but if the one election that I compare this one to is the 1980 election. And in 1980, a week before the election, Jimmy Carter had about a 6 percentage point lead over Ronald Reagan, and he ended up losing in a landslide. Now, I'm not saying that Donald Trump is Ronald Reagan or that Jimmy Carter and Hillary Clinton are the same, but the dynamics are somewhat similar in this race. We've got flat economy, you've got people that don't like the Democratic candidate very much, and they don't trust or understand or know the Republican candidate. And so in my mind, in both instances, it's a willingness to go with the candidate that you know but don't really like, versus the candidate that's the real wild card. 1980 they went for Trump, or excuse me, 1980 they went for Reagan. I don't think they're going to go for Trump this time, but I wouldn't rule that possibility out yet.
Very interesting. Well, Andy, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you.